The Anne of Cleves house owes its modern designation to the fact that it was part of the property of the suppressed powering of Lewes, which was given to Anne, the fourth wife of King Henry VIII, after their annulment. The house today contains the Museum of the Sussex Archaeological Society, a group that has taken a leading part in promoting interest in the preservation of ancient buildings and other monuments of antiquity in the county of Sussex. The period room represents a late Victorian date with figures in contemporary dress. No central heating here. It seems the larger the room, the larger the fireplace. This one had to heat the hall, which occupies the full height of the building. Of stone, it really is massive, and contains a 16th century fireback, polished steel spits, and other articles connecting with the fireside. Another interesting fireplace is located in the old kitchen, where the spit was turned by a weight-driven jack, giving us an idea of what good trenchmen there were in those days of old. Notice the thick beams in the ceiling. Not much give if you bopped your head here. The beautifully detailed tapestries, originally belonging to the Duke of Newcastle, was presented to the Society in the late 1800s by his first cousin's descendant, an Earl of the Times. So I found the southeast of England a place of quiet preservation and reflection. Time for a little refreshment before starting out on the next leg of our sojourn. Some of the best meals we had along the way were at these roadside taverns. Have you ever heard or read about some particular place or structure and had a dream of visiting that place one day? I think we all have, probably of more than one place. Well, one of those dreams for me was about to come true. And talk about amazing structures of man, this is probably one of the most amazing of all. I had seen a television documentary of Stonehenge some years ago, and the mystery of it had intrigued me ever since. I have had other people who visited it tell me they were disappointed, that they expected more, that it wasn't all that it was made out to be. I couldn't disagree with them more. This turned out to be one of the most fascinating highlights of the trip. Here we are, out on a plain of very slight hills, in what seems to be the middle of nowhere, viewing these monoliths of rock that could only have been placed there by man. What makes this even more unbelievable is that none of the rock used here is indigenous to the area, but had to be brought by the most primitive of means, for Stonehenge dates from 2500 to 2200 BC. They didn't have highways like this to transport their building materials then. Not only that, but it was assembled of stone brought from several different areas. The outer circle of diameter of 97 feet originally had 30 standing stones with 30 lintels on top, each cut to a curve to fit the circle. These are sarsen stones, of silicified modules of sandstone, and probably came from the area of Marlborough and Newbury. The blue ones, the small ones in front of the sarsens, came from Presley Hills in Pembrokeshire, among other places. They may have been brought partly by water, slung on ropes between two boats. The largest stones of Stonehenge seems to be the trilithons, originally a group of 10 stones. Each pair is topped by its own lintel, forming a horseshoe around the altar stone, a fallen monarch. The open end of the horseshoe faces towards the heel stone or sunstone, about 256 feet from the center of Stonehenge. On the year's longest day, the sun rises very near the peak of this stone. All in all, a very impressive monument of a very dim past. Typical English village here. We have traveled further west, still in the south, to come upon Radipole village, a part of Weymouth in Dorset County. Among its structures there seems to be some sort of an old manor, and in fact that is what it is called, the Old Manor. If you were to write Don, you would address your letter to him at the Old Manor in Radipole. No house number or street needed. Don, this seems to be quite a palatial home you have.
In the old days, this fireplace was filled with blazing logs, but they're a bit too expensive now. So all we have is an old electric radiator, and it doesn't really look quite right, does it? Anyway, let's show you round the old manor. This old grandfather clock is around 200 years old, and it's still going strong. It ticks away steadily and chimes the hour regularly, and it looks like doing so for another century or two. The swords come from many places and periods. Most of the old houses in Britain have a few swords used nowadays as decorations. It seems they didn't beat many into ploughshares. Our ancestors were obviously rather a warlike lot. This is a really beautiful prayer book, printed over 300 years ago. It's done in illustrated style, and the book is in perfect condition. The paper's still clear and white, with only the slightest trace of yellowing around the edges. It must be worth quite a tidy sum. Unfortunately, it doesn't belong to me.
Radipole turned out to be a nice place to stop for a bit of a rest. Just a short distance from the manor is Radipole Lake, where you can bask in the sun and enjoy the natural quiet scenery around the lake, or feed the swans and various other birds that make it their habitat. The small black ones with the white blaze are called coots, or so Don tells me. Don, just what is a coot?
They're water birds somewhat similar to moorhens, but larger, and they're much less timid. They probably got their name from the sound they make. Coot, coot.
Maiden Lane, narrow, slightly winding and looking very comfortable. And no, this slide isn't in backwards. In England you do drive on the left, and it wasn't all that difficult to get used to. Yes, it does seem to be a nice place to live, even for the kids. Weymouth not only has a harbor, but a bay as seen here. And to confuse things further, Weymouth Bay has its own harbor, called Portland Harbor, shown here on the right. This is the result of Portland Island linked to Weymouth by a causeway jutting south from the mainland. We are looking towards the northwest along one of the largest continuous beaches of the world.